Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our daily dose of Success God's Way. This is Erin Harrigan, your Hustle with Heart and Health coach, helping everyone attain results for total health with Arbonne and helping entrepreneurs align results to God's truth. Let me first start by saying happy almost end of September. For those of you that are looking to kick off better health for the fall, which of course it's officially fall now. I am not a pumpkin spice person, but I know some of y'all are. Our next Arbonne 30 Clean Eating Group is starting Monday, October 7th. We do have one starting October 30th, but if you haven't already ordered your products, you wouldn't have them in time. But I do recommend, if you want to do October 7th, that you order in the next 3 or 4 days. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So measuring impact. I've just spent the last couple of days with a biotech client helping them evaluate their advertising agencies. And one of the things that we talked about through the last 2 days is how will they measure impact? Because obviously they can create all kinds of great materials and websites and ways that they can communicate with physicians and patients and caregivers. But how will they measure that those things are successful? And it's not an easy measurement. It's not what we would think on the outside, like, oh, well, measurement is just how many more patients or how many more people receive the drug. There's measurement beyond that. So the question for us as God-centered entrepreneurs is, how do we measure impact? Because the bottom line is, what we think impact should look like is not always what God's impact looks like. In Dr. Charles Stanley's Life Principles Bible, one of the life principles that he talks about is obey God and leave the consequences to him. And that's really hard for us, right? Because it's clear in black and white in whatever business we're in what impact or return on investment looks like. It looks like more clients. It looks like more business partners. It looks like sales volume. It looks like more services being sold, etc. But sometimes as we're working and those things aren't happening, we think that we aren't successful. And as we've talked about all the time through my podcast, the blog, and these lives, that Success God's Way is less about those tangible results and more about how we are impacting the kingdom and how we are showing up reflecting his light. So I want to give you a quick example I was thinking about this morning. A few months ago, I spoke to a friend of mine about joining my Arbonne team. She had reached out to me. We had had a conversation a number of times, but she had reached out to me this time and said, okay, I think I'm ready to do this. Let's have the conversation. And in that conversation, we certainly talked about that. But we also talked about Financial Peace University because Brian and I had just paid off a lot of our debt and we were working on paying off our car at the time. We also had talked about the impact that would have on her as a single mom. We also talked about where I go to church. And I was thinking this morning, she never joined my business, but here's what else has happened for her. She paid off her car. She's enrolled in Financial Peace University, and she started going to church. So where do I measure impact as a God-centered entrepreneur in that conversation? Is it only where the impact happens in my business? No, this woman has been forever changed because she's changing her financial legacy, but more importantly, she's changing her faith legacy. So I want to read this excerpt to you from the Charles Stanley Bible, and it's called The Adventure of Obedience, and how in our obedience we follow, and then the Lord provides the outcomes that most impact his kingdom. The reference verse for this is Isaiah 30:21. And the bottom line is that God intended our walk of faith to be an adventure. And I don't know about you, but sometimes this adventure in pursuing success God's way is a little too adventurous for me. So here's what this says. Obedience is about expressing our love and trust for the Lord, not avoiding unpleasant consequences. When we place our trust in the omnipotence of the Lord and we act on his prompting, life becomes worthwhile, purposeful, and I wrote joyful. We need not be afraid of the future because God already knows the outcome of our obedience, and we can trust in his promise that he works everything together for our good. And that's Romans 8:28. Although we may not understand how, we are confident that the Lord is continuously moving through us and moving us through a variety of circumstances toward his overriding purpose for our lives. But if we fail to obey because of a mistaken desire of safety or fear, we reject the opportunity for God to demonstrate his awesome power in us. So if I hadn't had that conversation, or if I were only measuring that conversation based on the outcome that she joined my business, I would have completely missed what God was doing through me in blessing her, that led her to make some decisions that are forever changing her life and her legacy. So you guys, I just want to ask you, how are we measuring impact as God-centered entrepreneurs? This is something that I'm addressing in my book. I'm almost 3 chapters written, and that's my goal by Monday so that it can publish by February. But I think it's really important that we understand how are we measuring impact, and that the impact that we make for the kingdom is so much bigger than the sales volume or the promotion or the number of clients, etc. And if we can just hold on to the Lord and be obedient in what he's calling us to do, the impact that we will make as God-centered entrepreneurs in pursuing success God's way, in hustling with heart, will be vastly bigger than just what it says on our P&L statement. So, food for thought today. Get down below. Let me know how this resonates with you. Get on over to Success God's Way. I'd love to hear a similar story from your perspective of where the results of some business action didn't look the way you wanted, but had far greater reach in providing impact in God's kingdom. Make sure that you get over to erinharrigan.com and subscribe. The latest blog post dropped yesterday. And of course, podcasts drop on Sunday. And with that, I wish you guys a fantastic day. If I can help you along this path, whether it's through, clean eating, so your mind is focused and your energy's in the right place in your pursuit of success God's way, I'd love to do that. Or if you need a coach to hold your hand through it, I'd love to talk to you about Hustle with Heart. Have a fantastic Thursday.